What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel, back with another video. Today I'll be showing you guys how to achieve this glamorous look with all drugstore products. So all the products that I use today are super affordable, super easy to find. I will leave all of that down below along with the prices if you guys want to try this look out, or if you're interested in any of the products that I use today. I'm not going to take too much time, so let's get right into it. I'm gonna jump right on in. So I'm starting with setting the eyebrows, and I'm also going to apply some of that setting powder to my lids just to get rid of some of that oil, and also allows for a better application when I'm using my eyebrow pencil to avoid, a little bit of slip due to the oils on my face. And I'm using the Colourpop Brow Boss pencil just to fill in and draw the eyebrows to the desired shape, just using short stroke motions to create hair-like strokes and filling in wherever I think is sparse. And I'm doing the same thing on the other side, lining the bottom of the brows and then trying to fill in where I feel like it needs to be. Remember, ladies, that our brows are sisters, not twins, so don't get too caught up trying to make your brows look exactly the same. Just fill in where you feel like it's necessary and try to get as close as possible. And now I'm using Revolution Pro Tinted Brow Gel just to tame the hairs a little bit. So it's gonna allow to keep those hairs in place, but it's also tinted, so it's gonna be able to fill in some of those sparser areas and give a little bit more color where you need. And I'm doing the same thing on the other side. Be careful not to put too much product on the brush so that you don't create super dark brows. I like a natural brow, so I want to be careful with that. And now going in with Juvia's Place I Am Magic Concealer in the shade number 13 to highlight and accentuate that brow bone. We also want to make sure that we are dragging down that concealer just to make a nice, even, smooth surface to apply our eyeshadow. And now I'm using Makeup Revolution's Conceal and Define Concealer in the shade C13 to clean up the top of the brows. You don't have to use the applicator that they give you. I just prefer it. You can just use a regular concealer brush as well. I just feel like it's easier, and then I use less brushes, so it's just more convenient for me to use it like that. Same thing on the other side, and we want to make sure that we're leaving a good layer of concealer above the eyes so that we have something to blend the foundation into. I think this personally helps with not creating that halo effect. And now I'm using my Real Techniques brush to just blend out that concealer, still making sure to leave a good amount of concealer on there to blend with. And underneath the brow, we're not only just blending, but we're also smoothing out that concealer because we're leaving it as a primer for the eyelid. So we want to make sure we're still leaving a good amount of that concealer underneath. And then I'm going in with Makeup Revolution Primer in the color C1 as a lid primer, and then I'm just blending it upwards into the concealer that we already used underneath the brows. And now from the Juvia's Place Masquerade palette, we're going in with shade Burkina, and that's going to be used as our transition color. So we're applying it over the crease and just blending it throughout. Same thing on the other side, alternating between a tapping motion and a windshield motion. And then with the shade Fulani, we're gonna blend that into the first shade, applying it in the same area above the crease. Again, starting with tapping motions to place it and then blending it out in a windshield motion. We're just doing that throughout the entire lid, just above the crease line. And now taking the darkest brown from the Morphe 3503 Fierce by Nature palette, we're gonna apply this to the outer V of our lid as well as directly to the crease, creating that definition for our crease. And here I'm just using a completely clean, unused brush just to blend out that area between the brow and the shadow to create a seamless look. And with the same concealer that we used to set our lids, we're gonna use that to cut our crease. And I'm using fluffy motions just because I'm not trying to create a super defined cut crease. I'm going for a soft glam look, so we don't want something that's super sharp. Of course, I can always go back in and clean up the spots that I feel need, but I'm not going for a super crisp look here. Again, with the shade Burkina from the Masquerade palette from Juvia's Place, I'm using that to blend the outside of the crease into that darker shade from the Morphe's palette. And I felt like I added a little bit too much of the last shade, so I just brought in a little bit more of that dark brown from the Morphe's palette to even everything out. And I'm using Casablanca from the Masquerade palette as my shade for my lid. Such a pretty gold. Just doing quick tapping motions throughout the lid, making sure not to create long strokes or streaks throughout the eyelid. And again with the shade Burkina, just to blend out that area where it meets the gold. Using NYX's black matte liner to line the lid, I didn't want a super dramatic wing, so I'm just stopping right at the end of my eye. And then going in with that dark brown from the Morphe palette just to smoke out the ends of the liner. And going in again with that Makeup Revolution concealer in the shade C1 that I used to prime my lids and to cut the crease on my lid, I'm going to use that as a primer for my pigment that I'm going to apply to my waterline. And I wet the brush off camera, but now I'm applying my pigment from Mayo Makeup Neon Stacker. And I'm just going through and applying it wherever I applied the primer. I'm not being too careful with it because I'm gonna go back and clean it up later. So I'm just applying it thickly throughout. And my new favorite primer from Revolution Pro, the Goddess Glow Primer. It is an illuminating primer, which I love, love, love. And we're just applying that all over the face. And now I'm applying the Makeup Revolution Conceal and Define Full Coverage Foundation, and I'm wearing it in the shade F14. I love the lightweight ability of this full coverage foundation for such a great price. The only other foundation that ticks all these boxes for me is 4 times the price, so I would say that this is one of my favorite drugstore foundations on the market right now. And now I'm just blending that foundation into the skin, making sure to blend into my hairline as well to not create any lines or harsh marks. And if you haven't guessed my favorite drugstore brand by now, we're using it again. Makeup Revolution Conceal and Define Concealer. This is in the shade C13, and I'm using this underneath the eyes to brighten up the eyes. We're also going to use it on the Cupid's bow, and we're also going to use it on the nose as well as on the forehead. And coming in with the Juvia's Place I Am Magic Concealer in a brighter shade, we're gonna use that directly underneath the eyes to create a super bright under eye and really conceal. And now we're just blending everything out. We wanna make sure that we start with the Makeup Revolution darker shade, and then we'll go on to blend out the lighter shade that we applied. We're just making sure that we don't miss any spots, and we're blending until we create a seamless application. And I prefer to blend out the under eye with a beauty sponge instead of a brush, just because I feel like it picks up less product and it gives me the desired look that I'm going for. I like a super bright under eye, so I don't want too much of the product to be taken off when I'm blending. I go back in with the brush just to get those hard to reach areas, like in the crease between my nose and my eye. And I'm using the Juvia's Place Shade Stick in the shade Katsina to contour throughout the face. I'm going to use it on the cheeks, the nose, the forehead, as well as the chin, just to make those areas disappear a little bit. And we're gonna go ahead and blend it out with our brush. We wanna make sure we take our time and really blend it out to create a seamless, flawless application and avoid harsh lines. If you want to create that airbrush kind of look, you wanna make sure you really get those lines and blend them out properly. And now we are going to set the concealer, because you have to set every liquid or cream that you apply to your face. So I'm using the Crayon Case Chalk Dust in the shade N to set the concealer underneath my eye, on my chin, on my nose, and on my forehead. We're also going to do it underneath the contour lines just to create a defined contour. And I'm using a powdered contour from Morphe as a bronzer just to set the cream contour that we used earlier. As I said, we have to make sure that we're setting all creams and liquids on our faces, so that is what I'm doing here. And I don't like to leave on the setting powder for too long. I'm not really a fan of baking, just because I feel like it gives you that white, ghosty, pasty kind of look. So I make sure that I start brushing it off almost immediately after applying it. And now I'm using my favorite drugstore contour palette, the True Complexion Black Radiance Contour Palette, to warm up the face. And now I'm just applying my lashes after allowing the Ardell Duo 2-in-1 lash glue to get a little tacky, and then we just go on and put them in. And now we spray our face down with setting spray for a great hold. And now we're going through from that same Black Radiance True Complexion Contour palette, and we're going to apply that highlight that's in there, Super Bronze Pretty Highlight, and we're just applying that to the highest parts of our cheek. And I'm using an LA Girl brown lip pencil, but you honestly can use any lip pencil. Sometimes I get mine from the beauty supply store. It honestly doesn't really matter. And we're gonna finish this look off with the Makeup Revolution Sheer Lip in the shade Head Turner, just to create a nice, pretty nude lip.